Okay, so you've probably seen the words halal or haram on a menu somewhere, right? But what do they actually mean? Because, it's way more than just a set of dietary rules. For over 1 billion Muslims around the world, these ideas are a fundamental guide to daily life.
So let's just jump right in with the fun one. We all know pork is off the menu, right? That's kind of the famous one. But what about something a little more out there, like, say, alligators? Is alligator meat halal? Stick around, because we're not just going to answer that question. We're going to break down why.
But before we can even get to the gator question, we got to back up a little. We need to understand the whole system first. So let's start with the absolute basics. What does halal even mean?
Okay, so at its core, halal is an Arabic word, and it literally just means permissible or lawful. That's it. So if something is halal, it means it's allowed under Sharia, which is the whole framework of Islamic law that guides a Muslim's life.
It's pretty straightforward, really. You can almost think of it like a simple switch. On one side, you have halal, which is allowed or lawful. And on the other side, you have its exact opposite, haram. That means unlawful or forbidden. It's this really clear line between what's okay and what's not.
Okay, so that brings up a really important question, right? Who makes these rules? Where does this whole lawful and unlawful stuff actually come from? Well, let's take a look at the rule book, so to speak.
Yeah, this guidance doesn't just come out of thin air. It's all rooted in two main sources. First, you have the Quran, which for Muslims is the holy book, the direct word of God. And second, there's the Hadith. Think of the Hadith as the recorded teachings and sayings of the Prophet Muhammad. So Islamic scholars dive deep into these texts to figure out how the rules apply to, everything.
All right, so now that we have the background, let's see how this all plays out in the real world. And the best place to start is the one most people think of first, food. This is where you'll see these rules pop up most often.
So what's generally good to go? Pretty much all plants, as long as they're not, poisonous or something. Seafood? Most opinions say, yeah, all seafood is halal. And for land animals like chicken or lamb, they have to be a lawful type of animal and slaughtered in a very specific, humane way. It's a process called zabiha.
And what about the haram side? The forbidden stuff? Well, you've got the big ones like pork and alcohol. Blood is on that list too. But pay close attention to these last two because they're super important for our little investigation here. Animals of prey that have fangs or claws, and, you guessed it, most reptiles and amphibians.
All right, we've got our rule book, we know the basics. It is time. Let's go back to our main question, our big puzzle. The alligator is like the perfect test case to see how all these rules actually get applied when things get tricky. So, let's just put it out there. Are alligators halal? Think about what we just learned, right? We said predators with fangs and most reptiles are usually haram. So, what's your guess?
Okay, and this is where it gets super interesting because there's actually not just one answer. See, in Islamic law, there are different schools of thought. For the majority of scholars, we're talking the Hanafi, Shafi, and Hanbali schools, the conclusion is clear: haram, not halal. Why? Well, because alligators are predators with fangs and they live both on land and in water. But then you have this other perspective, the minority view from the Maliki school. They argue that, hey, alligators are creatures from the sea, so they should count as seafood, which would make them halal.
So yeah, there's a debate. It's a real thing. But the bottom line, the key takeaway here, is that for most Muslims around the world, the answer is a pretty firm no. Alligators are not considered halal.
But honestly, the alligator thing isn't just about alligators. It actually points to a much bigger, more important idea at the very heart of Islamic law. So let's zoom out for a second and look at what you could call the golden rule of this whole halal and haram thing.
And here it is. This is the core philosophy. In Islam, the default setting for everything, literally everything, is that it's halal. It's permissible. Something is only considered haram or forbidden if there's clear, direct evidence from the Quran or the Hadith that says, nope, can't do that. To put it another way, the burden of proof is always on the prohibition, not on the permission.
And you can see how that principle is about so much more than just what to eat. It's this incredibly dynamic way of looking at the world, especially the modern world. Which leaves us with a final, bigger question to chew on. How does this idea, this permissible unless proven otherwise rule, apply to all the new questions we face today? We're talking about things like AI or modern finance. It's a pretty powerful way to approach a really complex world, isn't it?